Hello, everyone. Coffee is settling down deep in the system. On the screen here before you is Monsters of the Multiverse. Here is the cover art. Definitely screams to something that I'll talk through in a later video. Looking out into the horizon, the release of Spelljammer. This screams very fantastical, very otherworldly, ethereal in a way to me. Here we go. Using this book. The multiverse of D&D brims with peril, and many of the greatest dangers are monsters. A companion to the monster manual, this book collects monsters from many different planes of existence, each creature ready to imperil D&D heroes of different levels. The book also includes game stats for non-player characters who may assist or oppose the heroes, and an array of fantastical races for players to consider for their characters. The monsters and fantastical races in the following chapters are accompanied by the occasional comments of the mighty wizard Mordenkainen, one of the most learned mages of the D&D world of Greyhawk. The Archmage Tasha, Mordenkainen's friendly rival, will interject as well. Altogether, the monsters, NPCs, and fantastical races herein provide a host of new friends and foes to populate your D&D worlds. What you will find within. Chapter 1 has fantastical races, presenting over 30 race options for PCs, complementing the options in the Player's Handbook and other D&D books. These races debuted elsewhere and appear all together for the first time here, each of them revised to fit into the current state of the game. That last sentence is notable. Chapter 2 is the bestiary. You're essentially getting 2 chapters, but there's a lot of content here. Chapter 2 contains over 250 monsters and NPCs, each one represented by a stat block and some story text. When you're preparing to run an adventure as the DM, consider sprinkling these creatures into your games, mixing them with the monsters and NPCs from the Monster Manual. The creatures in this chapter fit seamlessly with the ones that you use from other D&D books. And then, of course, you have an appendix of monster lists, making it easy for you to find the right stat blocks for the adventure that you're running. This appendix lists the book's monsters and NPCs both by creature type, challenge rating, and environment. When I said both, I meant both monsters and NPCs by the 3 things: creature type, challenge rating, and environment. Anyway, let's jump into this. I will not take the time to look over every single one because you have 30. Fantastical races. All of these and all of these. There's a lot. Again, all familiar, but we will talk through some changes and you will see that that vibe is here. At first level, you choose whether your character is a member of the human race or of a fantastical race. Assuming here they mean by human race, you're dealing with the things in the Player's Handbook. You'll notice that list up there of all these bullets, or not bullets, but because I'm on D&D Beyond, I can click on any one of these and quickly jump to that section. You don't have your dwarves, your elves, your humans, your half-orc, your half-elf, right? The stuff in the Player's Handbook is still, as written, the stuff in the Player's Handbook. It's when you're creating the stuff that's what's found in Volos and whatnot, okay? So at first level, choose whether your character is a member of the human or fantastical. If you select a fantastical race in this chapter, follow these additional rules during character creation. The big one, as first introduced, I think, in Tasha's, is ability score increases. You will notice they are now gone in the stat blocks of these fantastical races in this book. It no longer says Tabaxi get plus to dex and so on. Now you simply increase one score by 2 and increase a different one by 1, or increase 3 different scores by 1. Follow this rule regardless of the method you use to determine the scores, such as rolling or point buy. Languages. Your character can now speak, read, and write Common and one other language that you and your DM agree is appropriate for the character. Creature types. Every creature in D&D, including a PC, has a special tag in the rules that identifies the type of creature they are. Most player characters are of the humanoid type. A race in this chapter tells you what your character's creature type is. Here is a list of the game's creature types in alphabetical order, and so on. These types don't have rules themselves, but some rules in the game affect creatures of certain types in different ways. For example, The Cure Wounds spell doesn't work on a construct or an undead. Things like that, right? Something that affects only humans might not affect celestials and so on. Lifespan, kind of removed that. They also kind of removed height and weight. So let's take a look at some. We have the Aerocochra. Notice very quickly, this is the new. This is the Aerocochra as written or brought into Monsters of the Multiverse. As an Aerocochra, you have the following racial traits. Once again, notice there is nothing that indicates where to put your stats. You choose where you want them to go. Alignment is gone. Height and weight is gone. Age is gone. So notice the stat block is very simplified. That's it. You're a humanoid. Your size is medium. Your walking speed is 30 feet. Very simple words. If we look back at Aerocochra, where they came from in Elemental Evil Player's Companion, you had this whole ability score section. This is a different book, right? This is old. Very quickly, actually, let me show you this. You will notice that if I was to look through the races, using the D&D Beyond option, right? Look through races, click on that. Here's the Player's Handbook races. Here's all the races in Monsters of the Multiverse, which is what we're going over. But now look, if I scroll down here, you're going to notice there's this legacy word. See that? From Elemental Evil Player's Companion, which is where Aerocochra, Ganassi, and Goliath first came from. From Volos, right, we have the Aasimar, the Bugbear, Furbolgs, Goblins, Kobolds, Lizard Folk, and so on. What does legacy mean? If I was to click on this, and I mouse over legacy, it's going to pull this up. Legacy content. The introduction of Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse to the Dungeons & Dragons game has revised older content. Going forward, any content that does not reflect the latest rules and lore will be categorized as legacy content. Legacy content will be clearly indicated by a legacy badge. I'd assume this is something, well, you see it here in D&D Beyond, right? I don't know how they didn't reprint those books. So that's kind of wonky, I guess, right? It's neat that I have it in digital format because you can simply add that badge to it, where obviously no one took the book Volo's Guide off your shelf and wrote legacy in there. But you'll just know. Monsters of the Multiverse is the new stuff. Legacy content will continue to be accessible and function consistently with other areas of the D&D Beyond website for anyone who owns the content. This means, as an owner of legacy content, there will be no disruption to how you wish to use and interact with that content as you do today. Legacy content cannot be purchased directly in the marketplace. Okay? So, what we are looking at is the legacy version of the Aerocochra. And notice, it gave you some specifics of where your ability score was. It talked about how old you should be, talked about your alignment, talked about your size, meaning height, about 5 feet tall, blah, blah, blah. Your weight is this much, and your size is medium. Now, the new version, you're humanoid, you're medium, your walking speed is 30 feet. Flight changes as well. Because of your wings, you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed. Kept it simple. You can't use this flying speed if you're wearing medium or heavy. The legacy, old version of the Aerocochra, had a base walking speed of 25 feet, a flying speed of double that, and then to use this, the same stipulation, you can't be wearing medium or heavy. So there's some stuff that's the same, but you can tell they've kind of just crunched it down a little more and just made it simpler. Talons, natural weapons, blah, blah, blah. If you hit with them, you deal slashing equal to 1d4 plus your strength instead of the bludgeoning damage that's normal as par for an unarmed strike. The new version, you now deal 1d6 plus your strength, slashing instead of the bludgeoning. So about the same, but more damage, right? And then you have Wind Caller starting at 3rd level, blah, 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 blah. That was not there. And notice they also removed languages. The old legacy version, you can speak, read, and write Common, Aerocochra, and Orin. Remember what it said in the beginning. You speak, read, and write. Every fantastical race speaks, reads, and writes Common. I think the big part of that is Common is that universal language, of course, right? I've played in games where characters, PCs, weren't able to speak Common because it was cool flavor. And it was a massive hiccup in game because there's so much stuff that, oh yeah, by the way, that whole thing that NPC told you, you didn't understand any of that. Your players played the telephone game and relayed it to you, right? So Common is universal, and then you would essentially pick what's another language that might fit for your race, okay? The artwork oftentimes is going to be very different. I don't even see any here. Oh, it's right here. So you get this one. I can't even click on it. Whereas now you have this one. Okay, you will notice, indicative of the direction that they're going, you're going to see a lot of, whether it's androgynous or a lot more representation of female versions of characters and whatnot. Really cool stuff. Characters at different sizes, heights, and weights, and heavier set, and they're not all superhero, muscular, large chest, you know, whatever. So I like that direction as well. It just gives you a much more realistic understand, guys, when it talks, and I'm going to digress briefly. I won't go too far down this rabbit hole here. When you're dealing with diversity of physicality, how short a person is, how squat, body image issues. I'm fat, I'm skinny, I'm heavy, I'm bulky, I'm puffy, I'm thick, I'm muscular, I'm strong, I'm weak. Whatever it may be, what you look like. I am a fitness, strength and conditioning, health and wellness professional. I understand, I respect all shapes, sizes. So I'm on board with things like that. Representation, that not everyone looks like the entire cast of Justice League in real life. That stuff goes all the way back to the roots of it. A little kid always wants to play with He-Man and the toys that look like this, but then they look at themselves in the mirror and their friends, and it's like, none of us look like Conan. Does that mean I'm inferior or otherwise? So I like the artistic representation, and you'll see that through a lot of these. Let's chew through a couple more. Let's see if the Aasimar have changed. Once again, the biggest thing you're going to notice is cleaning up in that languages are gone, size, weight is gone, alignment is gone, and most importantly, the ability score increases because you put these where you want. Aasimar are humanoid. They are medium or small. You choose the size when you select this race. You want to be a little Aasimar, you can. But it's not going to affect you mechanically because it just simply states you still have a walking speed of 30 feet, period. You have a celestial resistance, dark vision, healing hands, light bearer. There's a lot of stuff here. The other Aasimar, which I believe was in Volos, the legacy version, right? We know what that means now. There he is. Once again, the convenience of D&D Beyond Digital. It indicates this doesn't reflect the latest rules and lore. Ability score increase is gone, and then therefore you didn't have... It's almost like they've added all these abilities. Necrotic Shroud, which was on the Fallen. The Protector was Radiant Soul. The Scourge was Radiant Consumption. If you look at the fantastical races, you have all of these now. So you no longer need to pick the sub-race. That's huge. You put the stats where you want. Where before, an Aasimar began with a Charisma +2, and then depending on your sub-race, it let you know where that +1 went, right? Now it's all just chunked all together. Dark Vision, Celestial Resistance, Healing Hands, Light Bearer, and so on. Dark Vision's the same, and so on. But there you have it. Let's take a look at goblins. I like goblins. See, here's the artwork. I still like that kind of very monstrous in a way. Almost looks a little uncivilized, very gritty. Barbarian / roguish in a certain element, right? Has that grit and feel to it. So it isn't like they've just cartoonified, turned it into something that's fit for a 7-year-old to look at. I like that, but you have a female. That's it. Pretty small. You're humanoid. You're also considered a goblinoid for any prerequisite or effect that requires you to be one. You're small. Walking speed is 30 feet. You can see in dim light, Fey Ancestry, Fury of the Small, Nimble Escape. Let's see. When you damage a creature with an attack or spell and the creature size is larger than you, you can cause the attack or spell to deal extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. You can use this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, regaining all uses when you finish a long rest, and you can use it no more than once per turn. If we look at the Goblin, the Legacy version, right there. This is in Volos, but the goblins were also, I think, exactly word for word, also found in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, which would therefore also be a legacy, right? I'd assume. But maybe those goblins have because there's so much lore attached to the races that are playable, besides the big elephant people, whatever they're called, Loxodon and such. You might want to, if you're playing in Ravnica, maybe you only stick with the way the goblins are written, including they have a very specific assignment to ability scores. Maybe that's how you choose to play goblins if you use goblins and you allow them as playable characters in Ravnica, and you don't use the multiverse version of it, right? Weave through that how you want. But you could see the old goblins had ability score increase. They talked about their age, their size. The new ones, right, it just says they're small, 30 feet. 30 feet. Fury of the Small. Before, the extra damage used to be equal to your level. Now it's equal to your proficiency bonus. Once you use it, you can't use it again until you finish a short or a long. Once you use it, it can't be used again. All uses can only be used after you finish a long. But you can use it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Before, you can use it just the once. Obviously, if you're level 20, you're dealing a shit ton more damage, but you get it. They've seemed to eliminate a lot of these as well, where you can use it again after finishing a short or long. Now, a lot of them have kind of been moved into, they refresh after only a long, but you get more uses of them before they entirely run out. Like, for example, the Goliath, right here. Obviously simplified, this is Monsters of the Multiverse. Humanoid, medium, 30 feet. Stone's Endurance, right? When you take damage, you can use your reaction to roll a d12, and then you add your con modifier to that roll, and you reduce damage that you just took by that much. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all of those uses after a long rest. If you look at the legacy version of it from Volo's guide, not Volo's guide, I think they came from Elemental Evil Player's Companion thingy right here. You'll notice the Stone's Endurance is the same thing. Roll the d12, add your con mod, reduce damage by that much. After you use this that one time, you can't do it again until you finish a short or a long. So now you get X amount of uses of it equal to your proficiency bonus, but all of those don't come back till after a long. I kind of like the way they've gone with it. You get more uses of that sort of unique ability. Tabaxi. I think the art on this one might be the same. Yeah, it's the same artwork. That's okay. Here we go. Humanoid, you're medium or small. Choose the size when you select the race. Walking speed is 30 feet, and you have a climb equal to your walking speed. Straight up. Your strikes deal 1d6 plus strength. Before, you had a bunch of details on ability score increase, age, size, basis walking speeds 30 feet, but then you also had cat's claws, all put in the same category, where because of your claws, you have a climbing speed of 20 feet. In addition, your claws are natural weapons, dealing 1d4. So you can see they've just, cat's claws is what gives you the unarmed ability to deal 1d6, so more than 1d4. And then it just says, walking speed's 30 feet, and you climb equal to the same. Dark vision, feline agility, same type of thing. I think that's almost identical. Right here, yeah, it reads the same. And then when it gets to monsters, I mean, whew, Ogres of War. There's a lot. The battering ram, the bolt launchers, the chain brute, the howdah. I know a lot of these things were there, but you've got like this stuff. And you'll notice where they were talking about going down the direction of like, when a monster has like a special ability, that's like real, an indicator or a mark of what they do, it's oftentimes put into their new actions. So it's not just, they still use spells. The Oblex can cast one of the following spells requiring no spell components, using intelligence as its spellcasting ability, so on, once per day, at will, 3 times a day, and so on. But then you'll notice there's a lot of these abilities that are sort of just chunked into the action. So they've changed these stat blocks as well. Now, I don't want to say that there's 250. If there was 250 entirely new monsters, just buy the damn book. I'm a sucker for monsters and new stuff. Alhoon. Legacy version. Old, legacy, new. Let's see. Typically neutral evil. We've already gone over that. Any evil alignment, medium undead, and it tells you use a Mind Flayer Wizard. This is the new one. AC 15, 150, 30 feet movement, 15 foot fly. AC 15, 120, 30 feet, no fly. They now fly. As written. Stat blocks look mostly the same. All of this stuff, this is the new guy. All these skills, much more readable, just easier. CR 10, still the same CR. Proficiency bonus, good. He had magic resistance, innate spell casting at will, once per day, and then the spell casting feature. Well, now, magic resistance and turn resistance. He didn't have that before. Nope. And you have Chilling Grasp, Arcane Bolt, Mind Blast, all part of his actions. Where you had Chilling Grasp and Mind Blast. So they added Arcane Bolt and multi-attack. Was Arcane Bolt over here? No, but I think it's just sort of the essence. That's what I was talking about. So maybe this was a good example to highlight that before I end the video. You can see it's a ranged spell attack, plus 8 to hit, 120 foot range, one target for 8d6 force damage, right? That wasn't even in here somewhere. So that's what I mean, is they often will take something that feels like it's the essence of it, and even if it was a spell before, they've turned it into an action. So that way it's easy to delineate and separate how you use it and what you do with it, and so on. Oh, there's turn resistance. But yeah, see what I mean? It's like so wonky where it's listed. Where here, now they just keep it very simple, separated, nice and well. And then check this out. I don't know if this is the direction they're going, because there's nothing I've seen errated yet in the player's handbook. Negate spell, a reaction. The Owlhound targets one creature it can see within 60 feet of it that is casting a spell. If the spell is 3rd level or lower, the spell fails. But any spell slots or charges are not wasted. It's counterspell, right? But I believe the original counterspell, when you're countered, which is terrible for players when that happens, they lose the spell. They lose the slot. So I wonder if this is a new direction. And you know what? I don't want to misspeak. I want to just double check. It is a reaction. If the creature is casting a spell 3rd level or lower, its spell fails and has no effect. If it is casting a spell 4th level or higher, you make an ability check. On a success, the creature spell has no effect. It doesn't, yeah, I believe it was just, it's a negation thing. The spell fails, has no effect. It doesn't say anything here that you get to keep the resources spent. So, kind of staying in line with how the PCs are going to have sort of the same abilities that the monsters might. I wonder if that's the way they're going to go with it. This new version where it doesn't even say anything about 4th level or higher, no option. It's just if it's 3rd level lower, it's canceled. That sucks. But any spell slots or charges are not wasted. So it is the book that is bringing it all together and giving us something new to chew on. So that is Monsters of the Multiverse. I mean, it's a lot for me to click on here, so I'm excited. That's all I have for you guys. I'll see you soon.